first. And we are live. I am so sorry. I had such issues, and now we are a bit late. So if you were here on time and I had these tech issues, I'm really, really sorry. But this will stay inside of the group, so make sure you catch up on this replay afterwards if you haven't been able to be here live with me. So what we're doing here today, I had actually planned to go live, maybe just like 10, 20 minutes, something like that. But I have created almost a bit like a masterclass, I would say. So we are going to go through the 6 steps that are essential for you to build and design an online offer. And now if we can share the slides, Angela. So first thing I wanted to do was to actually go through why you even need an online offer. Because I got the question not so long ago. So what is the reason for needing a scalable online offer? If we go to the next slide, and the reason why Angela is doing this for me, it's because I didn't manage to share the slides myself. I don't know what I did wrong. But anyways, so this is a super simple calculation offer, and you might want to study this, like pause this video and study this on your own. But let me quickly just explain what I mean with these things. So I use like super simple calculation here. So we have the first 10K months because that is what most people say that they want to make. We calculate these 10K months only based on one offer. So in theory, of course, you can mix and match these different offers to get to the 10K. But in this calculation example, we are only using one offer to get to the 10K. So for example, let's say you have one-to-one services. We use the one-to-one services. We also have a membership example here, and we have the group coaching program here too. The reason why I'm also using membership is because I often meet people who say that they would love to have a membership, but I'm going to share why that is not such a good idea, especially not if you don't have a huge audience already. But let's start with the one-to-one offers. So the calculation examples we're using here is like a $100 per hour per client here. Or the other example is $250 per hour per client. So if we then look at how many client hours do we need per month to get to the 10K? When we look at the $100 per hour, and I know that many people don't only charge $100, like when we start, it's usually around 120, 150. But so the $100 is only to make this example very easy. So what you need though to actually make the 10K, if you would charge $100 per hour for your client type, you need 100 client hours. And that means that when you also need to do some preparation time, and in this example, I've used like 15 minutes preparation time and maybe also taking some notes after the meeting. So if you then have 100 client hours, that means that you actually need to do an additional 25 hours preparation time. So in total, that is 125 hours. And if we then split that into 4 different weeks, because every month usually has 4 weeks, that is 31.25 hours per week. When you have that pricing strategy, you don't have time to do any lead generation, or you would be so exhausted to do any lead generation. And you probably don't even want to do any lead generation, because why would you want to get in more clients? Because that would be so exhausting. So the one thing you can do is obviously increase the prices for your one-to-one offers. So for example, if we then would increase it to 250 hours instead, you see that the number of client hours, the number of prep hours, the number of total hours, and the numbers per week drastically go down. But you still need 20 clients to get up to the 10K. So why did I say 20 clients? Well, usually we meet with our one-to-one clients every 10 days to every 2 weeks. We seldom meet our one-to-one clients weekly, meaning for this pricing example, you actually still need 20 different one-to-one clients to get to the 10K. If we then move into the membership example here, where we charge, as an example here, sometimes memberships cost anywhere between $10 up to $97. That's usually the price range, especially in the beginning. The number of client hours you need for a membership, though, is significantly lower if you compare it to the one-to-one services. And here it's also independently, you can have 10 members, you can have 1,000 members in your membership, and it's still only 1 to 2 hour client hours per month. The prep hours you need is like 2 to 4, I would suggest, especially in the beginning, meaning you end up with total hours per month of 3 to 6 hours per month. So if we break that down into the weeks from a monthly perspective, it's only 1 hour per week for a membership. However, and here is the big difference. For that, actually, to make up to the 10K, you need 200 new clients. Or not new clients, they can also be renewed clients, obviously. So clients that stay within your membership. But the churn rate on members is usually pretty high, so you will always have to get in more and more clients. Of course, you can scale a membership. There is no cap on a membership. You can go through the roof, both when it comes to revenue, but also when it comes to members. But when you have like a smaller audience, especially in the beginning, I wouldn't advise you to go to create a membership. When we then look at creating a group coaching program instead, so what we usually say when we work with our clients is that we start the beta offer usually around $500 per month, so that they feel super confident when they launch their first beta offer. And then the next launch, we actually suggest they increase double the investment for the clients into the program. So let's assume you have a group coaching program which you charge $1,000 per month, or for the program for your clients. So the number of client hours you need per month is, in this example, 8. And the reason why we say that is because what we do is we have 1 live teaching per week and 1 Q&A teaching per week. And that also then shows in the preparation hours, because you don't need to prepare for the Q&A session, but you will need to prepare for the teaching. Unless you've done this like hundreds of times before, so you already know all your content and everything, that obviously take down the preparation hours. But like in the beginning, I say at least 1 hour preparation hour per week to kick off your program. The total hours per month that you would then have for your program is 12 hours per month, or if we break it down into the weeks, it's like 3 hours per week. And here, as you can see, this is the big difference, right? This is exactly why you need a group coaching program, which is a little bit of a higher ticket compared to the membership, because here you only need 10 clients. And yes, the number of hours are more than when it is from a membership, but the effort to get in those 10 clients will be so much less than the 200, because in this example, you don't see the lead generation that is included, that needs to be included to actually acquire these clients. So if we then move to the next slide, and if there are any questions, then make sure you add them, either when you're watching the replay or if you're watching now. And maybe I should see if we have anyone live with us. So the reason why I am so fan of this is because I'm walking the talk myself. So I currently have 40, and it says members here, but that is just how Kajabi calls my clients inside of my program. So I currently have 47 people in my group coaching offers that are scalable offers. If we then go to the next slide, is that this is also what I teach, so I help my clients to build exactly the same the processes. So the process is validated, not only by myself, who has launched several like workshops, courses, programs, etc., but it's also been validated by, for example, Jeanette. And when I say we also look into the pricing, we really look into the pricing, because I don't want anyone to charge hourly rates for your coaching sessions. And when Jeanette launched her very first beta course, and she's a dating coach, and the first thing she said to me, I don't think my people will actually want to do a group coaching program. They were huge fans of her first beta course. So when she did the first beta course, she got 8 new clients immediately into that beta course. Araceli, she even enrolled one-to-one clients as part of the identify and validation process that we're also doing as part of the program. And I'm going to share a little bit more what I mean when I talk about the identify and validation process. And she got 5 founding members into her beta program. Lisa increased her one-to-one pricing. She enrolled 3 clients into her very first beta program. And her last course that she ran with 200 participants. So you see, when you implement this process, there is no cap on the number of people that you can actually take in. So if we then go into the next slide. So what are we talking about then? Well, let's talk about making this super, super, super simple. And let me just quickly grab the group to see if we have any comments. Okay, no. If there are any comments, make sure you add them because I have my phone here so I can check the comments here, even though I'm streaming from Zoom. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a super simple business model. So at the bottom, we usually say we have a free masterclass or we have a free webinar. And I'm also going to share why that is the best sales strategy that you can even implement. And then as the next step, the first scalable program is to create the online program. You will still have your one-to-one clients. You will still attract one-to-one clients. It will not devalue the pricing of your one-to-one offers. On the contrary, because when you fill your online programs, you will be able to increase your one-to-one pricing too, exactly like Jeanette did, exactly like Lisa did too. And if you think about it, I remember that one of my clients was a little bit like nervous about introducing, first of all, the free masterclass, but then second, also the more scalable online offer. And she was super afraid that that would actually devalue her services. But you think about Tony Robbins, for example. No one thinks that he has devalued his services for all of the free challenges and all of the free webinars and everything that he's doing. On the contrary, I don't even imagine what he can charge for his one-to-one services, just as an example. So if we look at the dollar sign here and compared to the number of people we have too. So your one-to-one services should be your highest priced segment, right? And then the online program can be somewhere in between. And there are, of course, other products that you can add to. But for this, to make it simple, to keep it simple, to make it easy, we just focus on the online program here. So let's go to the next slide. There is something called Parkinson's law, and the meaning there is that the time you give something is also the time that it takes for you to build it. The very, very first time that I built my online course, I bought an online course on how to build an online course. Sounds super, right? But I totally got stuck in the, how do you say it, like analysis paralysis. It took me 10 months and I didn't even manage to put it in place, right? The process that we follow is that our clients, they kick off their master classes. They go through the whole process, kick off their master classes, and enroll their first clients into their beta offers within 12 to 14 weeks. So that is what it takes, because we're not going to rush through anything. We need to do solid groundwork, because that is the piece where most people actually fail, that they think they know it all already. So they miss the super important steps. So the time it takes for you to actually build a scalable online offer when you follow our process is it will take you 12 to 14 weeks. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And then you host your program. So let's go into the next slide. So this is my friend Tessa. And she is a great example of someone who has done this process over and over and over again. She just closed her 9th launch of exactly the same offer, of exactly the same masterclass, and she closed close to $200,000 in that launch. So meaning you create one masterclass, you create one offer, and in her case, that offer is priced around $500 to $1,000 because she has different ranges in her offer. But it doesn't have to be a high ticket. You can really do that, but you have to do the process over and over and over again. You can't just do it once and then think, oh, that was it, right? Either I failed or, it took off, right? You have to think long-term of this process to set it up properly and then rinse and repeating it, building and optimizing it. So if we go to the next piece. So the first step is we are looking into identifying and validating your program or your idea, actually, the course idea. So what do I mean by that? If we go to the next slide. We mean that you need to figure out what your ideal clients already want, and then you create a product there around that. What most people actually make a mistake is that they create something they would have wanted, but now you have actually moved along. You are further along than your ideal clients are. You have a totally different vocabulary compared to what you had before. So you have to go back and talk and figure out, how do they talk? What is it that they say that they want? And then you build that. You don't build something that you want to build. You don't build something that you think they want to have. You really focus on something, a problem that they want to have, a big enough problem, because, for example, helping someone or teaching someone how to tie their shoelaces is not a good enough problem, right? So we need to figure out, what problem do your clients say that they have, or your ideal clients say that they have, and how can you create that product? So if we go into the next slide. So here we talk about the client bridge methodology. So we're taking them from one side to the next side. We're bridging the gap here. We're not doing something else. And you don't have to bridge like the complete gap. You don't have to give them, I don't know, whatever dreams and desires your ideal clients might have, but you can also create a bridge that actually takes them halfway on the path. But that is part of the whole process. So if we then go to the next one. So sometimes we get the question, but what if I don't know what to teach? Because I think that is a little bit like the coach's curse, right? So we are great, or a service provider's curse. We are so great at coaching people that we don't really see that what you're doing is actually repeating the same support over and over and over again. So what you might need then is someone who looks from the outside and in and asks you some important questions to actually figure out, what is it that you do that you are extremely skilled at, that no one else really understands how to do it, and that you can really help your clients with that. So Lisa, for example, she's been a coach for over 10 years, I think it is. And when she came, she said, I have no clue what I can teach. And within 15 to 30 minutes, we brainstormed the different ideas. And then she took that and went on with that. That does not mean that the idea is validated, though. It just means that that is the start of the process, right? To figure out what are the different topics that you can teach. And I am 100% certain that you have more topics than you can teach about than you even think. So if we move into the next one. So the reason, or not the reason, the way that we do that is we look into social media. You get to talk to your people, you do interviews with your people, and you also do surveys with your people to ask them open questions, to hear what exactly is it that they want and need. And here, the importance here is not, you're not confirming your idea. What it is that you really need to, well, you are confirming their idea, but you're not confirming your theory about the idea. It's not, you're not doing a research paper or statistics paper here. You're really having open questions here so that you get their language. That is super important. And if we then move to the next one. So the next step is so once you've done that, you have identified the problem that you want to solve. We have identified the bridge. So the next thing we are going to do is what is the high level design phase? So we have a problem, if you look at the bridge, I think it's on the next slide. Exactly. So we now have the bridge. Now we need to bridge the gap. So what are like the high level pillars? What are the high level steps that your ideal clients need to take so that they actually get to the point where they say that they want to go? And this is what we call the course or the online program promise. Like, what is the promise? What is the result? What is the transformation that your ideal clients will get once they have gone through your program? And this is where most coaches say, yeah, but I can't promise them the result if they don't take action. In your assumption, it is that they will take the result, they will take the steps that you tell them to take or that you teach them to take, but they are still responsible for their own results, right? But if they take the steps that you give them, then will they be able to achieve the result? Most likely, yes. So let me see. There are still no comments, but if there are any comments, then make sure you add them or you add a comment afterwards. So if we then move into the next slide. So now we have the idea, we have the high level bridge. Now we need to bring it to the market.
And this is where most people say, well, I can't sell it. I haven't even created it yet. Well, you have to sell it, because this is where you speed up the process, and you're not stuck in those 10 months that I was in, creating an offer that never even was published. You have to pre-sell your program, and we do that through a super simple process. So if we go into the next step. And then the question is, well, what if I don't have a large audience? You don't need to have a huge audience. Jeanette, for example, had like 1,000 people, something like that, on Instagram, but you need to have the right audience, which is why as soon as you, for example, join my program, you will join my program, we focus on building and growing and engaging your right audience from the get-go. You also need to talk their language, because if you try to talk to everyone, you will talk to no one, which is also why it's so important that we do the market research, or we do the identify and validate. We pick up on the language. So you don't need to have a huge audience, but you need to have the right audience. And we focus on building that audience. And then if we go into the next one, and this is also why we are having a webinar or a masterclass, because that is how you super fast can build a know, like, and trust with an audience that really trusts you in what it is that you're doing. You get to sell from you to many, and you get to enroll multiple clients at once. That is how Araceli, for example, was able to enroll 5 people into her beta office, or Jeanette was able to enroll 8 people into her beta offer. Or when I launched my latest beta offer, we enrolled 16 clients at once, right? At the same time, when you have a webinar or masterclass, not everyone will be ready to invest just because you are ready to sell, right? But you will, at the same time, build your email list with people that have taken a step closer to really want to learn from you. The advantage of a webinar or a masterclass is that you will also master it over time. You get to improve it, you get to optimize it. When I look at, for example, my LinkedIn Clarity Masterclass, I've done it 7 times already. I know it by heart, meaning when we look at the last bullet point here, I repurpose it for presentations, for paid workshops. I don't need to recreate anything new because I already got the content for it, right? And then if we move into the next slide, because this was just part 1, having a masterclass or webinar is so great because you also get to build immediate know, like, and trust from your audience. It creates a sense of urgency and exclusivity because you are there with them. We usually do this through Zoom, for example, so you have a very close connection with your audience, and you get to showcase your expertise in real time when they are there, because they have the opportunity to ask you the right questions, or the wrong questions, if that's also what they're asking. And you get to cultivate a community and engagement. You get to really connect with your audience. And what it also does is you will ask questions with the people that register for your masterclass or your webinar. So at the same time, you're also collecting valuable market insight into what exactly it is that they're saying. So you will continuously improve your messaging. What it also does, it increases your social proof because you are a speaker, right? So whenever you are a speaker, you are considered to be an authority, and your credibility increases. And when you close cart, which you will do, you will also have the fear of missing out from your audience. So that is super important. That is why we help you set up this super simple sales funnel. And we go to the next one. So we identify and validate it. You have just designed like a super clear pillars, like we usually say 4 steps pillar. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, like, or modules, if you want to put like that. You also have your sales funnel. That is when we talk about the lead generation and your masterclass. And you're also selling it before you're building it. Because if no one raises their hand and says, oh, this is exactly what I want, then we need to go back again, right? So if we then move into the next slide. And this is a question that we often get, like, what if no, and I've felt it too, right? What if no one buys? Or what if only one person buys? So only a few people buy? Well, they will have an amazing experience because they will get like almost like one-to-one support, and you will have the possibility to build your online course live with someone who then gives you amazing testimonial and feedback. I'm not saying that you should aim for a lower number of participants, but it's not a big deal if few people actually register or buys buys your program the first time, because you will run this process over and over and over again. Tessa also didn't start with 200,000 revenue in her first launch. I also didn't start with 16 people in my very first launch, but you will get there eventually, right? So if we then move into the next slide. So the process, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning, you can walk through this process as fast as in 7 weeks, but we actually advise you to do this in 14 weeks. And the reason is that we see the importance of actually building and growing an engaged audience at the same time. The more dialed in your audience is, the better your results will actually be. But you can, in theory, you can work through these steps as fast as in 7 to 14 weeks. So now you have sold your program, you have, let's say, 5 to 10 super eager candidates who really want to join your program. And now it's for you to actually start building it. You haven't built anything yet, but this is now the moment that you get to start to build your online program. And if we then move into the next one, and now we have this process. So we're just rinsing and repeating this process. And this is one of the mistakes that I did in the past, where I had a huge light bulb moment in September 2023, and I realized that, or December actually 2023, I realized that, holy cow, I had been rinsing, I hadn't been rinsing and repeating. I had been building new offers, new ideal clients, solving new problems over and over and over again. And that is exhausting. And instead, focus on one masterclass, like one sales strategy, and you launch your offer over and over and over again. Of course, you will make it better. Of course, you will change it, but we're not changing things that are really working. And then if we move into the next one. And how do we know what's working and what's not? Well, you need to do some data analysis. And here we're looking both at qualitative data and quantitative data. So qualitative is in terms of energy, how you felt, and quantitative is more in terms of what were the conversion rates, how many people registered, how many posts did you make, what were the open rate of your emails and things like that. So that is some data analysis you will do to rinse and repeat and make this process better and better. And then if we move into the next one. So as you can see now, we are rinsing and repeating the process, and you're actually repeating steps 3, 4, 5, and 6 again. But step 1, which was previously step 2, you're just reviewing and updating. You're reviewing based on your analysis. You're reviewing and updating the same resources, the posts, the emails, the sales page, the landing page, and things like that. Things that you feel that this is something I need to change. But as I just mentioned, you're not changing a winning concept. Do not change things that actually work. And I've been there too. I've done that mistake too, to actually change a sales process and a program that was working because I thought that it's probably not working as good as it could be. And that is why it's so important to actually have someone else's view. We had someone saying, oh, but I only got like four sales or something. And when we look at the conversion rates, it translated into like a 15-20% conversion rate. And that is super high, right? So always have someone else who knows a little bit more about the data and what is good enough and what we really need to change before you're actually changing something. And then you go through the steps again, like 2, 3, 4, 5, over and over again. And we say that I launch, for example, like every 8 weeks. You can absolutely do it more frequent if you want to, once you have dialed in the process. But we also think you need to maybe take some time off to get back to a little bit like relaxing mode, because it is high energy, especially when you are in promotion phase, especially when you are in open cart phase. Your energy will be like high. So usually what we say during the debrief process is that you need to take some time off, or book a massage, or do something just for you. And if we then move into the next one. So these are the 6 essential steps. So I've just gone through them all, the 6 steps. These are so important. You can't miss any of these steps, or you might fail, or you will have a process that takes so much longer than it needs to be. And I'm not going to go through all of them again if you want to do that. And then we usually get the question about, well, what about tech and what about pricing? So when we talk about tech, we do this super simple. We always teach our courses through Zoom, for example. We use simple applications. Angela uses one application, I use a different application, but the applications that are today on the market are super simple to use and to set up, and they have fantastic support, like support teams. They have templates to help you to create the landing page. So the tech, if you're afraid of the tech, or you feel that the tech is a little bit challenging, don't let it be the thing that holds you back, because it's so much easier than you might even think. And when it comes to pricing is a thing that if you go too high, you will sense that, right? And you will be like, I will charge 10,000 for this, and then you don't dare to say it, right? If you go too low, same thing. If you say, oh, this is just $100 or whatever it might be, you don't want to sell there either. So pricing is one of these important things that you need to test what works for you. And when it feels a little bit like it feels too easy to say it, then it's the time to actually increase the pricing for your offers. So that is also a thing to bear in mind. And if we go into the next slide. So we actually have currently the doors open to our Design to Sell program. And if you should choose to book a call, because we are not, this is not a click and buy or anything, but if you would choose to book a call with me to talk through whether this process is actually something that could work for you, what you can expect then inside of the program is that once you've gone through the program, or like mid through the program, because it's a 6 months program, and we take you through your process twice, because often what happens is that once we do a first launch, it goes either pretty well or not so good. And that is why we need to take you through at least 2 launches. So you get a fully validated online program inside of my Design to Sell program. You have based it on real audience demand. You know that people really want this, because you have clients who have paid for you to help them solve it. So you have a repeatable, scalable sales funnel that works. As I mentioned, I've run my process 7 times already. I don't need to do any DMs or cold outreach. We do connect with our audience in DMs though, but we're not pushing, we're not kind of like hard selling or anything, but we connect with our audience in the DMs. You will have paying clients before you build your first course or program, because that is super important. You can't sit there and start creating and then maybe no one wants it. So it will save you loads and loads of time. And you will have a rinse and repeat launch plan, so you don't need to start from scratch over and over again. So if we then go into the next one. So if we then talk some numbers, so if you would price your online program at $1,000, if you only enroll 5 clients into your program, 5 clients only, that is $4,985. If you would enroll 10 clients into your online program, let's say the first time, or maybe in total the second time you launch it, you will make almost 10K. If you then would say enroll 20 clients, which is not impossible, you could make almost 20,000. If you then increase the pricing for your program to $2,000 with the same number of clients, you can then actually make $5,000. If you have 10 clients, you make almost $20,000. And if you have 15 clients, you will make almost $30,000. If I set that in relation to how much we currently, the investment currently is for Design to Sell, is you get the return on investment with only 5 clients, even if you only price it at $1,000. So the current investment for Design to Sell is $4,200 for the 6 months, or if you choose to split it, it's $770 per month. But as I said, this is not a click and buy. We will share the link later so that you can book a call with me if this is something that you would want to do. Because here's the thing, if we go to the next slide, we are not doing this for you, right? You need to put in the work. you need to have an audience. And that doesn't mean that you have to have the audience now. It doesn't have to be big, because we focus on growing and nurturing your audience from day one. And we have just realized how important that is. So that is a focus that we are creating, that we are adding now new into the Design to Sell program, that from day one, or rather from the moment that you have closed your identification and validation process, that you will start with your messaging and start attracting the real people. You need to have the right mindset. And what do I mean by that? Well, it will feel strange. It will feel different. We will ask you to do things which might feel a little bit scary. You will host your first masterclass potentially ever. You will do invitations to people to come and join your program. We will ask you to sell your program before you have even created it, because that is part of the process. That is way how we help you save a lot of time and actually create something that people want to do. So you need to be able, you need to want to follow the process, even when you feel that, oh, I should just do this, or I should do that, or I should create my program before I even have someone who had joined it. You have to follow the process. And we need your commitment, because the only way to fail is when you stop. Imagine if Tessa had failed, if Tessa had stopped. Imagine if she had stopped after her first launch. She wouldn't have done the 200K at launch 9. If I would have stopped even before I launched my LinkedIn Clarity program, I wouldn't have had those 47 people in my community, right? So you can't stop. You can't say, this is it, I'm not doing this anymore, independently of how the first launch goes, right? Independently, if no one jumps on answering your identification and validation process in the beginning, we are there to support you, but you have to be willing to let us support you. So if we then go into the next slide. So this is what we're doing. Super simple, not anything complicated. We help you set up your online program. You will most likely, I don't know your pricing currently, but you will most likely increase the pricing for your one-to-one offers. And you will set up a free masterclass or webinar that actually attracts not only your people into your program, but also people into your one-to-one offers. If we then move into the next one. And that was actually it. So that was a quick masterclass into the 6 steps. And I will add the link to book your call so that you can do that, because we close the doors on the 22nd of April. To book your call, you still have the opportunity to have your call, because now we have a little bit like Eastern and things coming up in between. So make sure you book your call now so that you don't miss this opportunity. By booking the call with me, you're not agreeing on investing in the program or anything like that. You're just agreeing to have a meeting with me so that I can see, and we can both see if this is a great fit for you. If it's not a great fit for you, I promise I will tell you that. Have I had people who have failed in the program? If they don't take the steps, they will fail, right? Have I had people who succeeded in the program? 100%. Everyone who takes the steps, including Jeanette, including Araceli, including Lisa, including Agnieszka, all of them have taken the steps. All of them have gone through with the process and attracted one-to-one clients and clients into the group coaching programs, right? So that is super important to remember. The steps works. It is a validated process, but it only works if you're willing to take the steps and you're willing to commit, which is also why the investment is 4,200, because it has to be so that you're willing to commit. The return on investment, as you could see on the calculation, can be immediate, can be within the 12 months, and then you continue. Whatever you make after that is just on top of that. Most of my clients make it back within the first 12 weeks, but I don't promise that, right? It all depends on how committed you are to taking action. So that was actually it. I don't see that there are any questions. I don't know if there is, I need to update this in any way. No, see there are a couple, oh, shoot. See there are a couple of people live. I don't see if there are any comments. If there are any comments, if you're watching this, because this will now remain within the group, if you watch this and you have questions, anything is unclear, or it was a little bit too fast, go through the presentation again, watch it again. If you have any questions, as I mentioned, add a comment underneath this presentation, book your call with me, The only thing that will happen then, if you don't want to join the program, is that you've spent an hour with me. It's not a pick your brain, 45 minutes. It's not a pick your brain call. It's not a, I will tell you exactly what to do and you don't join my program. It is really a call to figure out whether you and I are a good match and whether you would fit into our Design to Sell program. So we close the doors on the 22nd of April. We have a limited number of spots. And once they are filled, and I would love to see if it would be perfect for you. So anyways, that was it. I will end today's live with the video, and I wish you a happy Easter and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.